Hello, good afternoon, one and all. I'm Dr. Sridevi, consultant pediatric dentist at Apollo Dental, Bangalore. So, today I'm in this live session to talk about various oral habits seen in children. So, in day to day life, in the clinical practice, we have seen many parents coming with their kids to the dental clinic with a complaint of dental caries, pain, swelling, discolorations, etc. But very rarely they come to the clinic with the complaint of any sort of oral habits. So that is mainly because of the parental unawareness. So in today's session, let's talk in detail about various oral habits seen. So a habit is a tendency towards an act or an act that has become a repeated performance. Any habit till the age of 2 to 3 years is quite fine because it gets stopped automatically. But if it extends beyond this age limit, that has to be taken care of because there can be some sort of emotional intolerance happening within the child. So habits are of two types, acquired and compulsive. Acquired means the child has learned this behavior and it is easy for them to stop. Now while compulsive means it is fixed within the child. So that means any emotional intolerance, the child will start doing this habit. And when you prevent them doing this habit, it makes them more anxious and worried. So now let's see what are the different types of habits commonly seen. So basically they are thumb sucking, tongue thrusting, mouth breathing, lip biting, nail biting, bruxism, etc. So parental awareness regarding all these habits are important because their mild negligence can cause dentofacial anomaly among children. So now let's go into detail about these habits. So first let's see about thumb sucking. So this is one of the most commonly seen habit among children. It is said that the prevalence rate is from 13% to 100% in some of the societies. Also, there is a relationship between the sucking habit, the child nutrition, as well as parental education. So when a child is not fed properly, or if he or she is hungry, then immediately they get pleasure by sucking their thumb or any finger. And also when both the parents are working, especially when there are working mothers, so the child sometimes feel this insecurity. So in such cases also, they try to find pleasure by doing these habits. So my suggestion is that at the first year of age, when you see the child sucking thumb or any finger, that is quite very normal. So as parents, our duty is to just move their fingers away and to attract their attention to something different, something they like, for example, like toys or something very colorful. So this has to be done. We have to make it as a routine. And now moving to the second year of life, definitely the incidence of thumb sucking must have reduced a little. And mostly it will be during night time or when the child is very tired or when he or she is very hungry. So, and also it is seen that when the permanent teeth erupts, mostly this habit will be reduced. But still, if it continues for a period of time, then that has to be taken care of. So there are two types of thumb suckers, that is active and passive. So active means so much of force is created among the musculature and this will definitely result in dentofacial anomaly. Now what is passive? So passive means the child is keeping thumb inside the mouth but no force is created, and as a result there will be no dentofacial anomaly that will be present. So whenever we see an active thumb sucker or thumb sucking habit kid, so we should never humiliate them, never punish them, never scold them in front of others, because all these again increases their stress level, which will again increase the incidence of thumb sucking in these kids. So very carefully we have to take this habit down. So now what are the clinical features you will find out in a thumb sucking habit child? So as you can see, this is a thumb mostly used by the kid for sucking. So this pad of the thumb will be placed over the palate, and as a result there can be a deep palate that is formed, and due to the force, there can be upper anterior proclination. That is, upper front teeth proclination can be seen. In the same way, lower anterior retroclination also will be seen. And since if this is an active habit, there can be open bite formed. That means there will be no sealing present between upper and lower teeth. So as a result, there is an open bite, and through this open bite, the tongue gets thrust whenever he or she swallow or speak or masticate. So this will again lead to a secondary habit called as tongue thrusting habit. So because of a primary habit, a secondary habit is also formed. So these are some of the features you will see in a thumb sucking, and mainly in an active thumb sucker. So whichever finger, it can be thumb or any other finger as I said earlier. So in that specific finger, you will be able to see a sort of callus formation. There is a hard stone-like structure will be formed over the finger, and that can be seen. So that is also again a sign of thumb sucking habit. So now what can we do to prevent this? So till the age of 2 to 3 years is fine, unless it is very active or unless where the incidence too much. So initially we can start with all the preventive measures, like you can start using any kind of band-aid. Okay, so any band-aid can be placed over those specific fingers, and also you can try using mitten gloves. So these mitten gloves, when it is placed and when the child is using that specific finger for thumb sucking, so what happens is that they don't get enough pleasure like how they were getting before. So this will finally help them to quit this habit. And also you can go for some sort of chemical treatments. For example, Femite, neem oil, clove oil, all these can be applied to specific fingers. And when the child sucks, this bitterness will help them to quit this habit. So these are the preventive measures which we can try at home only. And also, whenever the child reduces the habit, it is our duty to encourage them, to reward them. So once they get this positive feeling, they also have the ability or a positive thinking to reduce this habit and to quit this. But still, if it is going to continue and there is already a dentofacial anomaly that has formed, then definitely you have to seek the help of a pediatric dentist, and a fixed or a removable appliance will have to be placed, including thumb guard. So this is about thumb sucking habit. Now let's move to the next habit, that is tongue thrusting. So tongue thrusting means is a placement of tongue between or interdentally and between the upper and lower teeth. So here what happens is that you will be able to see your tongue interdentally. So we can say that usually infants swallow in this pattern. That means the infants will be pushing their tongue between the gum pad while swallowing. And when the teeth erupt, this gradually goes to normal swallow pattern. So this is also called as a retained infantile swallow pattern. So there are two types of tongue thrust habit, that is the simple and the complex one. So in simple one, you can see that the posterior teeth has proper occlusion. That means there's a proper bite seen. But in the anterior teeth, you can see a gap between the upper and the lower teeth. So that is because of active tongue thrusting, there is a gap that has formed and there is no occlusion in the front teeth. So as a result, the tongue just thrusts through this front region. So this is called as a simple tongue thrust, and also it is called as a teeth together swallow because there is an occlusion in the posteriors. Now moving to the second type, that is a complex tongue thrust. So in this we can see a generalized open bite or sometimes a posterior cross bite. That means how the occlusion is just opposite there, it will be seen. And also here the tongue can thrust anteriorly and laterally as well. And this is quite complicated when compared with that of the simple tongue thrust. But both can be treated. So now moving to the features. So what are the different features you will be seeing in this tongue thrust habit? So as I said, as you are moving the tongue forward, because of that pressure, there can be upper anterior proclination seen along with the spacing, and also lower anterior proclination as well. So there is a open bite that will be seen. And also the child can have speech defect as well, because whenever they are talking, whenever they are masticating, there is the tongue that is just pushing in front, so they will find difficulty in pronouncing few letters and few words, so which will result in a speech defect. So now let's see on how you can diagnose or how you can identify whether your child is having a tongue thrusting habit. So basically we have to observe. So observe when they are swallowing, like conscious swallow, command mastication. So all these things has to be done, and you have to check on where child is placing tongue. So when you understand the actual position of tongue, from that you will get to know how the child is placing the tongue, whether it is on the correct location or whether it is getting thrust between the front teeth. And also another examples or another test what you can do at home only is that you can place the fingers over the temporalis muscle like this, in this manner, and ask the child to chew, okay, or masticate. So in that case what happens is that when you feel contraction here, it means that's normal, quite normal. But if you can't find or if you can't feel the contraction, it means that the child is having tongue thrusting habit. And another example what you can do is that, or another test what you can do at home is that you just pull out the lower lip and ask the child to swallow saliva. So if he or she has a tongue thrusting habit, it is very difficult for them to perform that activity. So these are the few tests which you can do at home. And also now how to prevent it. So there are few exercises that has to be done. For example, first is a lemon candy exercise or a sugar drop exercise. So in this case, at the tip of your tongue, you can place this candy or a sugar drop or a honey drop, and then ask the child to place this tip of tongue at the anterior part of hard palate. Okay, that means just behind your front teeth incisors, and ask them to squeeze there and to swallow saliva, placing that drop there. So this they have to make an exercise for continuous 3 to 4 months, minimum 30 minutes a day. So this has to become a habit, because they should know exactly where to locate their tongue while swallowing. And next exercise is 4S exercise. That means you have to identify the spot, salivate, squeeze and swallow. So identify the spot means it is the anterior part of hard palate. You have to identify that spot, place the tongue over there, the tip of the tongue. Then the child should be asked to salivate. You have to squeeze there and swallow, placing tongue in that same location. So that has to be done. Again, this is also an exercise that has to be performed continuously until this habit is gone. So also we can tell the child to talk loudly, read newspaper if it's a grown up, or we can ask them to count from 60 to 69. Even whistling is a good exercise, and also some sort of lip exercise also can be done. That means a tug of war exercise basically. So it's a string where you can attach 2 buttons on either side. So one button will be placed inside the lip. That means as a barrier, lip will be there, and the other string will be attached, with the button will be attached, and that will be pulled by the child in an opposite manner. So this opposite force that created behind the lip will give a lip exercise and improves the tonicity of lip as well. So all these exercises can be done. But again, if this habit continues and if there's a severe dentofacial anomaly, then definitely we have to come to the dentist, and a treatment, a removable or a fixed appliance or an orthodontic treatment will have to be performed. So now moving to the next habit commonly seen, that is mouth breathing habit. So mouth breathing means it's just the habitual breathing through mouth instead of nose. So most of us are nasal breathers, but in sometimes what happens is that the person will not be able to breathe through nose properly, so they start using their mouth for breathing. So this is called as a mouth breathing. Now there are 3 types of mouth breathers. They are obstructive, habitual and anatomical. So obstructive means because of some sort of obstructions, they can't breathe through their nose, and hence they became a mouth breather. Next is a habitual. That means because it's become a habit. So due to this habit, they started using mouth for breathing instead of nose. And next is the anatomical. So it's because of some sort of anatomical variations, they are using their mouth instead of nose. For example, if there is any nasal polyp present, or if there is an enlarged adenoids, in all these cases, the child finds difficulty to breathe through nose. So instead, they start using mouth, and this becomes a habit. So now, how can we identify whether our child is a mouth breather? So again, there are some sort of tests that can be done. For example, you can ask the child to hold water inside mouth for some time. So if he or she is a nasal breather, that is quite easy for them. But if they are a mouth breather, then it is impossible for them and they will spit it out. So that is one sort of test easily that can be done at home. And now moving to other tests, we can use a double-sided mirror, and we can be placed over the upper lip area, just above the upper lip area. And if the upper side of mirror is there a condensation, if the foam condenses on the upper area, we can understand that they are a nasal breather. Or if the below side, if the downside gets condenses, then it means he or she is a mouth breather. And also another test that we can do is use of cotton fibers. It's called as a butterfly test. So it can be, these cotton fibers can be placed again on the same location. If the fibers move in a downward manner, it means he or she is a nasal breather. But in opposite direction, it means he or she is a mouth breather. So these are some of the tests that can be done, and you can identify whether your child is a mouth breather or not. So now, what are the features you will see in a mouth breathing habit kid? Okay, so usually they take their neck a little forward. So that means to get a proper breath, they always move their neck forward in a position to make their oronasopharyngeal root straight. So this gives them a pigeon chest appearance. So this is one of the commonly seen clinical feature. And also their nasal cavity as well as maxillary sinus is not properly, it's completely narrowed. It is not formed completely. Or we can say that their speech is also having a nasal tone. And also it is, in studies it is said that the blood gas constituents in these children is 20% more carbon dioxide is seen in comparing to normal nasal breathers. So now moving to their appearance. So they always have a long and narrow face. It's called adenoid facies. It's because of their this breathing habit. And also always their lips will be wide apart because they're taking air through mouth. So as a result, their lip will be wide apart, and always they have a generalized gingivitis. That means a gum inflammation will be seen, and also dry mouth, due to which again caries also will be more among these children. So these are some of the features. And also we can say that their nose will be tipped little superiorly because they are not using the nose, because it's not used properly. As a result, all these can be seen among them. So now in the dental, as dental features, what you will see is that again protrusion of the upper and lower front teeth, incisors, can be seen quite normal, and also open bite are seen. And as I said earlier, more caries, dry mouth, again gum inflammation, extra or more among these kids. So now let's move to the treatment part. What can we do to avoid this mouth breathing habit? So first and foremost, we have to understand what is the reason why the child is having a mouth breathing habit. So if it is because of any sort of obstruction, then that has to be removed first. That means because of any anatomical reason, in case of enlarged adenoids. So in all these cases, first the treatment has to be done for that. So once that treatment is completed, then only we can go with the mouth to control or to quit the mouth breathing habit. So unless the pathology is removed, we can't start with the treatment for mouth breathing habit. And if no underlying reason is there, it's just a habit, then initially only we can start with the exercises and we can start with the treatment. So basically you have to go for a breathing exercises, and as I said, the same lip exercise has to be done. And also as a mechanotherapy we can use oral screen. So this oral screen is a barrier that will be placed in the oral cavity as a barrier here. So what happens is that there will be so many holes placed in this oral screen. So because any habit, it is very difficult to stop as soon as possible. Like we can't stop it like that. So what we have to do is that we have to give time, slowly and steady we have to reduce the habit. So some holes will be placed in that oral screen, and later in a period of time, slowly we'll be closing one holes, and in a period of 5 to 6 months will be given, they will get a proper cure. So this is the that means exercise plus mechanotherapy together should be done to control the mouth breathing habit. So that's about mouth breathing. Now let's move to the next habit, that is lip biting. So again, lip biting is also very common among children. So again, they get a pleasure while chewing their lip. So mostly the incidents are commonly seen in among the lower lip. Maybe it's very easy to chew on the lower lip. Maybe that is a reason. And the clinical features or the reason why the child is a lip biter can be of two things. So it can be either of any sort of malocclusion. That means if they have proclined upper anteriors and they're not getting a proper lip seal, incompetent lips. In such cases, the upper incisors get in contact with the lower lip, creating this lip trap. It's called as a lip trap. And this is normally a habit, like because of any stress or anything, the child continuously bite on the lower lip. So you can see ulcerations, you can see wounds over the lower lip. So that can be the another reason. So basically what we have to do is protect the lips. So if it is case of any malocclusion, first that has to be corrected and automatically lip will be fine. And if it is because of a habit, we have to use lip protectors like lip bumper, because this is not self-correcting. This requires treatment. So you have to come to a dentist and treatment should be taken. A mechanotherapy is required for this. So now moving to the next habit, that is nail biting. So I think nail biting, more than kids, it is commonly seen among adolescents and college students. So it is, in studies it says that 45% of adolescents and 25% of college students shows this the nail biting habit. And we can also say that this is a successor of thumb sucking habit, because initially they had a thumb sucking habit. So when they stop this, alternatively they started with a next habit, that is the nail biting habit. So mainly it's because of too much of stress, especially during exam time, during viva time. College students, they have lot of stress. So in that case, they do this habit. So that is quite commonly seen. But again, this also requires treatment, because first we need relaxation therapy. This psychologically we have to understand, or we have to reduce our stress level. We have to stop this habit, and as a helping manner, we can use this. Again, the band-aid can be placed on the specific finger or specific nail which they are using for biting. And again, the bitter taste liquids like clove oil, neem oil, famide can be used. So slowly and steady you can take this habit down. And always you can see in such people, their nail bed will be always inflamed, will be reddened and inflamed. So again, that can also cause another trouble. So it's always better to stop any kind of habit. So now moving to the next commonly seen habit, that is bruxism. So bruxism means it is a habitual grinding of teeth. So whenever an individual is not chewing, swallowing, etc. So there are two types of bruxism seen, diurnal and nocturnal. That means if it is seen during daytime, it is called diurnal. If it is during night time, it is called as nocturnal bruxism. So now again, what is the reason behind this bruxism habit? So even this bruxism also, it is more commonly seen among elders as well, especially people who have lot of stress at work. They do complain of bruxism a lot. So mainly patient complaint will be of sensitivity, overall sensitivity in the teeth. So when we check, we'll get to know that there is a lot of enamel loss. wear facet that has formed in the molars. So molars usually we have cusp pattern, like a little mountains, you'll be able to see the cusp pattern. But in such cases, it will be completely trimmed and there can be a saucer shaped, that is a wear facet can be seen. So in these cases, what happens is that there's a loss of enamel, there's an exposure of dentin, which results in sensitivity. So this is quite common in people who are having too much of bruxism habit, especially the nocturnal one. So again, for this, first we have to understand the underlying reason, and a relaxation therapy should be required for this. So as I said, for any habit, we have to understand the reason, and it is said that any habit is there is some sort of emotional disturbance, some sort of problem the child is facing. So that has to be cured first, followed by any sort of treatments or preventive measures. So, and in case of bruxism, any sort of occlusal prematurities can be also a reason. So in that case, that prematurity has to be removed, then bruxism will be corrected. And always it is better to go for a night guard, because this will prevent the contact between upper and lower teeth, and hence we can prevent enamel loss. So these are the treatments that can be performed. So as a doctor, what I would like to suggest you is that whenever you see your child having some sort of habit, it is much better to take them to a dentist, especially a pediatric dentist, so that they can have a checkup and we can start with the treatment initially. So it is not something we have to make it lagging. So any treatment should be taken, priorly. We should not lag the treatment, because then it becomes more complex. So it is always better to do the treatment at an early stage. So thank you so much. I hope this live session was informative. And if any doubts, you can ask me. Yes, so which habit is found more among children? Yes, so it is seen that the prevalence of thumb sucking is more comparing to other habits. Even other habits are also seen, but more commonly seen among children are thumb sucking habit. Okay, so my child has thumb sucking habit and she's 2 years old now. So what should I do? Okay, so yeah, 2-year-old, that is quite normal. They are just, again, it's not time to do any mechanotherapy. But if it is too much of active thumb sucking, what we can do is that you can, whenever the child sucks the thumb, you can just attract their attention to something different. And also, if possible, you can start placing some sort of mitten gloves in them. So that will, slowly reduce the habit incidence. So that can be done. Okay, so is using pacifier safe? Yeah, this is a good question, because in many countries we have seen there are parents who use pacifier for their kids. So yes, using of pacifier is safe only till the age of 2 to 3 years. This is fine, but there are some cases where the parents dip the pacifier in some sort of sugar substitute like honey, and then they place inside kids' mouth. But we don't really suggest that, because this again can result in some sort of other problems like early childhood caries. So that can happen in future. So it is better to keep the normal pacifier, that also till the age of 2 to 3 years, that is fine. It should not go beyond that. So at what age the child should visit a dental clinic? Okay, so it is said that when your first tooth erupts, it's better to show dentist once, because there can be teething problems. So it's just better to go for a consultation, and every 6 months it'll be good if the child can come for a consultation. So any preventive treatment can be done, and also even though if there is any habit that has been started, can be diagnosed at an early stage, and also if any caries, also any preventive treatments can be done during these consultation times. So it is always better to come for a consultation every 6 months. What is the difference between nutritive sucking and non-nutritive sucking? Yes. So again, nutritive sucking means the child is sucking and he or she is gaining some nutrition from that. For example, breastfeeding or bottle feeding. So all these are sort of nutritive sucking. So now what is non-nutritive? Again, these habits are the non-nutritive sucking. That is the thumb sucking. The child is not gaining anything from that. So there is no nutrition he or she is getting. So that is called as a non-nutritive sucking. Okay, so I think that's it. So thank you so much for your time. And I hope all are safe. Take care. Bye.